Hello and welcome to the Birth Untethered podcast. I'm Shellie, a long-time doula, advocate and former university lecturer.
And I'm Kemi, a badass birth keeper, formerly a UK registered midwife.
Just a couple of rebels with decades of combined experience in pregnancy, birth and beyond, getting together to share wisdom. We exist to equip birth workers, families and seekers of truth with informed choice, not fear. Come as you are, learn what they don't teach. This is the birth revolution and you're all invited. Hello everybody! Hey gorgeous Kemi. Good to see you.
Just making myself comfortable is very important.
That's alright, you get comfy. Today we are talking about the second major intervention in pregnancy. Appointments, testing, scans, routine surveillance. Not necessarily whether they're good or bad, not whether you should or shouldn't have them, but how to understand what's being offered and how to decide what actually serves you as an individual. Because one of the least talked about truths in maternity care is this: you do not have to do anything during pregnancy. You do not have to attend appointments, you do not have to accept scans, you do not have to consent to blood tests, you do not have to answer questions that you don't want to answer, you do not have to have uncomfortable conversations to justify yourself. Consent in pregnancy is voluntary, specific and revocable at any time, legally, ethically and professionally. And you are not required to fight the system if you don't want to. Sure, if you want to, go for it. But if you don't, you don't have to. And holding clear boundaries from the start is often the most protective thing that you can do. Yeah. And if you want to understand more about your rights in pregnancy and how to navigate them, whether you're choosing to opt into or out of or into some services but not others on offer, remember to sign up to that upcoming bite-sized birth lecture with me in March, which comes with an excellent PDF, if I do say so myself, which includes sample letters to send to trusts and who to send them to. And you can check in the show notes for booking onto that. It's going to be live on the 28th of March on the Saturday, and if you can't make it live you still get the recording, so don't worry, and the PDFs and the template letters and stuff. So let's zoom out first of all to your spectrum of choice. It's very exciting because pregnancy care isn't binary, isn't a all or nothing, yes or no. There's a spectrum of options, and at one end you've got wild pregnancy, no routine appointments, no routine scans, no routine testing. But just because you're not having routine things doesn't mean you can't think, I'd like to have this scan, or I'd like to measure my blood pressure, or I'd like someone to do a blood test for me for these specific things, or not. Yeah, so you can decide or not. And just because you choose a particular path doesn't mean you can step off that path for a little bit or step onto a different path if you feel the need to do it. But what you don't have with choosing a wild pregnancy or a sovereign pregnancy is you don't have institutional surveillance or the repeated risk framing, the NHS's favourite hobby. Oh,
they love it. They do. They love it.
They're like, you know, when you see sketches of women going to have their MOT done on their car or something. It's the your thingamabobby majig is looking a bit dangerous, mate. You know, it's going to cost you a lot. You're going to have this test. You're going to have that test. The sucking in of breath, the danger, the framing of your body is dangerous, the framing of your pregnancy is dangerous. Oh, it's just, they just love to do it, don't they? It's their favourite thing in the NHS. So
makes them moist, doesn't it, Shannon?
I think it does. It happens so much, I think it does. So you could just avoid that.
Before anyone says it, I'm being obtuse because this is the grooming. I talk a lot about what happens when you're at your most vulnerable at birthing, but actually it starts with this grooming, and it is so insidious and cruel. And honestly, so many people contact me and say, God, I don't mind having my wee dip, but if they could only just shut up whilst they're doing it. It's all the fear mongering whilst all of this stuff is being done. I said, just do it yourself at home. And I will often send links to people. Say, oh, you can do your blood pressure at home. Don't need to go in and have people chatting shit. So yeah, I'm very upset about the grooming. So yes, I'm very obtuse today.
Yeah,
All right.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Because this is the thing, I hear it a lot, and I know you hear it a lot too. It's, well, I want to go to appointments because I just want to check that everything's okay. It helps me and makes me feel reassured to listening to the baby, or to have my blood pressure checked, or just to check my wee or whatever. But I just don't like all the stuff that goes along with that.
Yeah.
All the, like, you've been a naughty girl. Kind of stuff. It is so infantilizing, and it's very frustrating. And I think in my pregnancy a long time ago now, I just dreaded going to appointments, and then I've just thought to myself, why am I going? I can feel my baby moving. I know my baby's fine. I can check my own blood pressure. Why am I going? I can dip my own wee. Yeah, I could actually. I did have sticks because of being an osteopath and a naturopath at the time.
Yeah, you had them just knocking around, may as well use them.
Had stuff for my patients. So yeah, I was just like, why am I doing this? Especially when they'd run late and, you know, you'd sit in a doctor's office with everyone coughing and spluttering. I got a chest infection from going to a bloody midwife appointment.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, I don't want to do this. And then it's the, oh no, well, you have to have vaginal examinations. Like when I'm saying I'm not going to be having vaginal examinations, you know, I have a history of trauma. I know it's going to be triggering having a stranger want to be rummaging around in there. So I just don't want anyone to even offer it. Just someone saying it's going to make me stressed. And I know that in my birth, I need to be really calm and relaxed. Oh no, we have to do that. You know, that grooming.
But it's
and
just the lies.
I know. I said
it's so ick.
It's so gross. It's so gross. And I was a bit like, no, you don't. I was like, babies come out whether fingers go up there or not. I was about, it's like, have you ever seen a cat skeleton in a tree? And this midwife's like, huh? And I was like, no, because cats get down. People think they don't get down, so they want to interfere. Yeah. But actually they do. And it's the same with babies. They don't need your interfering. They come out. So no, it's not going to happen.
I want to be pregnant forever.
Yeah.
Do you know that you can measure your own fundal height? If you want to be doing all that, you can do your own. Or if you have to lean forward too much to do it so it changes your fundal height, you can phone a friend, you know, or your lover.
Come round, partner. Feel my pubic symphysis.
Feel my pubic symphysis.
Well, if you had to, like one of my clients, she said to me once she had a student midwife trying to do her fundal height, and she went way too low. She was like, "Oh,
really?
We're not."
Was she almost impregnated again?
She was. She was like, we don't know each other well enough to be touching there, my friend.
But I need dinner first.
And guess what they said? Oh my God, your baby's enormous. We need to refer you urgently for a scan. Your baby's ginormous. She was like, I don't think you measured right. You were not touching my pubic symphysis. You were at Party Town, you know, without invitation. And the mentor,
Party Town.
The mentor didn't re-measure it. She just was like, no, it's really important you go for a scan. Didn't recheck it. And then and she was like, oh, you know, my client thought,
this
great.
This is already an irritating episode. I'm irritated.
And then she was like, oh, I get to see the baby. And I was like, well, yeah, but you're also going to get all the...
Mate.
All the coercion.
Everyone going...
All the sucking in, exactly. And this is exactly what happened. Oh, your baby is looking a bit big on the scan. That 60% of the time is wrong to tell you your baby's big. Oh, we want to be thinking about, you know, it's just like...
Even though we already have the evidence that it doesn't reduce shoulder dystocia, which is the only thing they were looking for.
Exactly. So, yes, it's like, do you want to opt in to all of that nonsense, or do you want to opt out? And if you opt into all of that nonsense, just hold really firm boundaries. If you're not good at holding firm boundaries, don't go in there. You've got alternatives. So you could have independent midwifery care if you wanted, and they can completely tailor your care to what you want, you know, and they can help refer you for things like private scans. You know, they can give you continuity of care, which we know makes things safer. They can refer you to the NHS for blood tests if that's needed or wanted. You know, and you get that much better blend of intuition, physiology and selective medical insight if you need it. you know.
Individualised for you.
Exactly, rather than all the schedule appointments, all the routine screening, all the recommended tests and scans and surveillance. You know, I understand for some people it's deeply reassuring, but for others it's stressful and overwhelming or fear-inducing. You know, and neither way is wrong. You've got to do what feels right for you. But if we look back a little bit in history, you know, pregnancy care didn't always look like it looks now. And before the NHS, there were efforts to reduce maternal and infant mortality. But remember, it was never 50-50. Go back to the episodes at the end of the previous podcast, the last 2 episodes, to hear about what the numbers actually were.
Oh, I'm pregnant, let me write a will. Wasn't like that.
Here today, gone tomorrow.
It wasn't 50-50, okay?
It was not 50-50. But the efforts really before the NHS were based in the 1920s and 30s were based on social deprivation. So as we said before, improving nutrition, improving early engagement for those who were at the most risk, you know, had poor nutrition, etc. And then with the development of the NHS, they started wanting to centralise everything, bring everything into hospitals. So by the 1940s to 60s, around only 1/3 of births by that point was still taking place at home, whereas before that it was close to, I suppose it must have been close to 100%. You would have had a few people going in, but they were high risk people going into the hospital, not everybody. And following, there was a Cranbrook report. There was a policy target to get 70% of births to be in the hospital. Not because evidence showed it was safer, but because it was believed to be more modern. And in 1967, Sir John Peel, and this is a man looking after women's health, people, big red warning, wave the big red flags here, he recommended that 100% of births should be in the hospital. Again, without any evidence that it improved safety or reflected women's preferences. And by 1975, home birth rates fell below 5%.
Wasn't there a midwife that should become a researcher called Marjorie Tew, who also debunked Peel's work and was completely ignored as well?
Well, of course, because she was a woman. Why would you listen to women? They don't know anything about their own bodies.
Don't even. And also, you may be bringing it in, but women were actually thinking, oh, thank fuck for that I can go into hospital just to have an indoor toilet and not have people crawling at my orifice after I'd had a baby. Because they were living in overcrowded living conditions. So it seemed like a really good idea to be able to go into hospital and spend 5 days with just your baby. Yeah,
and the care back then was, you know, the nursing care and things was very different to today.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to cut you open 24 hours. Anyway, off you go. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you later.
You've had major abdominal surgery. Don't expect me to help you lift your baby.
Do it yourself. Lift your own baby. Do it yourself.
What do you mean you don't want a bit of limp toast? That's all you get here, if you're lucky. Yes.
Were you aware that, I'm sorry guys, I digress. There was a time back, was it in the noughties, where toasters were banned because on maternity units, because a bunch of women couldn't be trusted not to burn the place down.
I can believe it.
Yeah, they banned it. So you didn't even get your bit of limp, shitty toast.
Oh, God. It's sort of the saddest things I've ever seen walked in on a woman. Or sent by charity to go and help her. She'd been in hospital for 5 days because they told her baby might die and she needed an induction. And she's there holding this bit of limp toast. It's just there, just crying over it. Oh, it was so sad. It was so sad. Anyway, honestly. I broke her out of prison. She went home.
Of course.
Had a baby 5 days later when her body was ready. I did. I ran her out and I ran the obstetrician down at the time. Oh, it's really dangerous. I'm like, that's not my understanding of the statistics. This poor obstetrician was a bit like, no, you're right. Yeah.
Oh, man. You see what I mean? At least that one knew the statistics.
Well, I don't think she did. She just realised that I did and was like, oh, I've not got a leg to
Yeah.
stand on here.
I haven't got time. Haven't got
Yeah.
time to look up some facts.
I haven't got the
Just got
energy
keep
to
the
fight this
machine
one.
running. Keep it running.
Keep it going, keep it going. Right, so back in this time where everything was moved from where it was working at home to the hospital, it basically to get people in the beds. There weren't enough people in beds in the NHS, and in order to get budget, they need people in beds. So the government's not going to give them money if they're not looking after everyone. So if you tell women that it's safer for them to birth in hospital and, you know, wave the flag of a dead baby around them if they stay at home, the propaganda was so successful that mass people came in, and it continues to be so. But there were no randomised controlled trials demonstrating that moving birth into hospitals improve outcomes for any women.
I don't think we dug evidence-based. Well, sorry, we claim. I don't think maternity services claim that their work is evidence-based. Happened till the 80s, as far as I'm aware.
Oh, and in the 80s they believed babies didn't feel pain.
Yeah. Neither do black women.
Oh yeah, of course. Your skin's thicker and you don't feel pain, don't you know?
No.
Oh God, it's so outrageous. And the Cochrane, so everybody knows. Well, I don't know if everybody does know about Cochrane, but they're an evidence-based kind of organisation that collate data and create, you know, probably the best kind of evidence-based things that we have. And they
If you're
highlighted
not counting lived experience or qualitative research, because they do peer reviews of RCTs mostly.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, which actually in birth is so important, isn't it? But you know, but why would you research what women feel? Why would you want to know what feels better for them? Why would you want to know how they feel about the experience? No, just don't worry about that kind of thing. But they highlighted, the Cochrane collaboration highlighted that the shift was not just as a cultural transformation, because it completely changed the culture of birth basically overnight, but as this missed scientific opportunity and a point of critique of obstetric practice. And Archie Cochrane explicitly said that obstetrics missed its first opportunity in the 60s when it failed to randomise confinement of low-risk pregnant women at home and in hospital.
Real.
And I find that funny, the word confinement. Do you know what I mean? Like when we were talking about minimising the power of women in the last episode, that birth is this like majorly powerful explosion of just energy and you know, roaring out of women's power, and it's converted to confinement, like keep a woman trapped, tie her down, so they had these empty beds. So they're trying to get these women into the hospital. And then, of course, with the women in the hospital, the obstetricians then started to introduce a whole series of expensive innovations without any kind of rigorous evaluation. And once hospital birth became the norm, it then enabled this rapid expansion of medical technologies, of induction, of ultrasound, of electronic fetal monitoring, all without any evidence of benefit for women. They didn't necessarily act with conscious intent to create themselves work, but systems and incentives evolved.
Silence.
Yeah, they evolved around the intervention-driven, hospital-based models in the absence of any evidence that this path improves outcomes. And we still don't have that evidence. In fact, we have evidence to the contrary, that it worsens outcomes. And this routine technological, I can't speak today, this routine technological surveillance, including ultrasound, expanded rapidly, like really, really fast, without any kind of data showing it was safe, showing it was, you know, helpful, showing it improved outcomes. And in the 1960s to the 1980s, it shifted from being this high-risk tool, the use of ultrasound, to a universal one. And we see it over and over again, that the NHS is really quick to introduce interventions and very, very slow to remove them, if ever.
About 22 years slow?
Yeah, I mean,
like the X-rays, weren't they harming and killing babies for about 22 years before they took it out? We can't keep doing it. It's only been 2 decades of harm.
Let's just keep going. Like, even when the evidence later shows like there's limited benefit or in fact increased harm. So I think it's really important for you to all understand that routine care, you know, it's not neutral. It's not. It may feel helpful and reassuring. In very rare occasions, it might be life-saving.
Really rare.
Really rare. But it also might feel anxiety-provoking, or like you're over-medicalising something you don't want to, or that it leads to cascades of intervention. And care should be individualised, and we should have continuity, because we know that makes it safer, but that's not prioritised. Okay? And it's really important to understand that professional guidance and codes of conduct say that care should be individualised, that you shouldn't be pressured, that it should be conditional. Okay? And that being labelled high risk for declining routine pathways isn't okay. If there are threats around access to your birth choices, it's important that you understand that declining screening does not remove your legal right to care. It doesn't automatically make birth unsafe. It's an associative risk. It's not a causal one. And it doesn't contraindicate, for example, you having a home birth. Yeah. So the consent and your legal rights, which I'm just going to cover briefly, there are a few key points in the GMC Consent Guidance 2020 that consent must be voluntary, it must be informed, it must be specific, and it must be revocable. Okay? So that means that when you are told by people, okay, well, we're just going over your birth plan, so you're okay for vaginal examinations? And they're asking you this in an antenatal appointment, and you go, yeah, or no, and they go, oh, well, can't come out to your house if you don't agree to vaginal examinations. That's not okay. That's against their code of conduct. It's against legal ethics, and it's against the consent guidance. Okay, recognising that consent, blanket or in advance consent, it's not lawful. Okay, and there's nice guidance NG 201 for really boring nads out there. I'm just telling you this because I've had to do it lately.
What, like us?
Yeah, because the trust was trying to say to a woman that they weren't going to support her because she said, no, I'm not consenting to vaginal exams in advance. And they took that as she wasn't consenting at all. She was denying them, and they felt that in order to be midwives, they had to poke their fingers in her vagina. When she was like, no, if I feel it's necessary, I'll have it. But if I don't, then I won't. Fair enough. But they
informed consent.
But they were removing support for that. It's also against the NMC code.
Yes, it really is.
2.5. Professionals must respect, support and document refusal and continue care.
Continue care. Can I just show you? Can I wade in?
Yeah, please do.
My sweatshirt. This is one of Susie Camu's ones.
Informed consent is a human right. Yes.
There. Thought I'd wear that on my chest today.
I think it's the perfect one. Perfect one. So, conditioning care on compliance is a breach of consent law. Okay, that's it. It's that simple.
There you go.
Yeah.
It really is that simple.
But if you don't know that, okay, you might think, oh, I'm not allowed to home birth now because, because I've been told. And if you get it in black and white from the trust saying we will not be sending midwives to you, you need to understand.
From the director of midwifery, no less.
Yeah, you need to understand that that is not legal, okay, and you can fight that. Yeah. So, like I said, if you want to understand more about that, fighting that, come to the little bite-sized birth thing in March. Okay, so let's go through what does NHS antenatal care usually include, so that you've got an idea of what to expect, what you might like to accept or decline, because let's all say it together. You can say no to whatever you want.
No, it's whatever you want. You're doing a cat. Your baby doesn't have any rights until your baby's born and separate from you.
Yeah.
And you've got bodily autonomy here in the UK. So
Yeah.
you go, no thanks. You don't even have to explain. You don't even have to say thanks. You can just go, nah.
No is a full sentence, as they say. Okay, so it varies trust by trust, probably depending on how busy they are, what budget they've got. But broadly, you have about 7 appointments for uncomplicated subsequent pregnancies and probably about 10 appointments for first pregnancies. And this was reduced down from previously there were 12 to 13 appointments after evidence showed that there was no significant difference in outcomes. And I imagine that they probably didn't try fewer appointments, but that would probably show that there was no difference in outcomes either. Oh dear. And in NICE guidance, it explicitly states that the number and timing of appointments should be flexible. Okay, so, oh no, I don't want that appointment, or I can't make that appointment. Fine. Not punitive. You shouldn't be getting punitive treatment if you decline appointments.
Getting referred to your dad, Mr. Consultant.
Yeah, exactly. That interpreters must be offered and independent. Okay, and that's important that you have an independent interpreter.
Yes.
Because if you have a family member, they may not be interpreting what the person is saying. They may be putting their own spin on it, so having an independent interpreter is important. And you know, this is really for also people offering appointments, so midwives who are offering appointments. It might feel really great if they've got a partner or a friend who speaks their language, and you think, oh great, I don't have to go and get the phone to get interpretation. But actually, you do really need to make sure that the person is actually getting the information that they should be getting. Yeah. And guess what? Continuity of carer improves outcomes, and you can ask for it.
Don't say.
You can ask for it. You can say, I want continuity of care, because it's not consistently prioritised, and
so
we
when
know.
you ask for it,
Yeah.
What have you seen? The outcomes have been of that so far?
Well, what I would say is, if you want something specific about your care, and we'll talk about this more in March, is that talking to the lowly person, the lowly midwife that you are doing your booking appointment with, they have very little power over what happens. They're literally like, computer says no, especially now notes are digitised. Computer says you have to see the consultant, I have to book the appointment, you have to do this, you have to do that. You don't have to do anything you don't want to. So go higher up the chain. Okay, you've got to just go straight in with a higher level person who has the ability to create an individualised care plan for you. So don't talk to the minions. Not much point in talking to the minions. Just go straight to consultant midwives, head of midwifery, if you want to have a plan tailored to what feels right for you. Yeah,
You're now going to get a lot of hate for you calling them minions.
Well, you know, if they have the power, let us know. If you have the power to change the pathway and I am mistaken, please let me know. Otherwise, I think it's fair to say you don't have the power to change the pathway, and you need somebody higher up to say, you can do this, you can do that, you can do this outside of guidance. As a lower level midwife, I don't think you have the power to do that. If you do,
that's certainly what we've heard from mothers' experiences, that if they try even to decline an induction date, they can't do that.
I have to book it.
Yeah, and if they try to ask for individualised care, they get referred to their dad, the consultant, again. So
yeah, and you know, you can say, well, you can refer me if you like, but I won't be attending.
But then you get a phone call spanking you because you didn't show up for an appointment. Yeah,
but then you can do what Ben did and block the hospital number. Do you remember Anna, who spoke to us? And
Love it.
just like deny that number, thank you.
Because they'll go. They love their child more than the hospital do, and if they feel they need assistance, they'll go.
Yeah.
So you don't need to receive your incoming calls. Thank you very much.
No, exactly. Don't need your coercion. Thanks very much. Okay, so the first official appointment is usually around 10 weeks-ish, the booking appointment, and it's where most of the risk profiling happens, okay, to funnel you down the different risk pathways. So you will be asked or discuss, if you so wish, comprehensive health, obstetric and social history. So there will be questions about your lifestyle for risk assessment. Okay, and they're risk assessing for things like preeclampsia, gestational diabetes, thrombosis, mental health concerns, domestic abuse and vulnerability factors. So these are all things that are highlighted in reports that are more likely to lead to deaths. And so they're trying to screen for them to try to prevent deaths. That's That's the kind of aim of things. You'll also be offered blood tests, an early blood screening test, and then discussion about what further antenatal screening options there are. So it should be presented to you as options, but often how it is presented is, I'll book you in for your 12-week scan, I'll book you in for your appointment, you'll be booked in a consultant appointment. So remember, everybody, it's your choice. You can say yes or no to whatever you want. Okay. And they'll plan your care through your pregnancy with you, give you information about antenatal classes. Okay, so we're going to say here, there is good evidence to show that NHS antenatal classes are very inferior, shall we say, to independent antenatal classes that are not associated with an organisation. Basically because often what they're doing is grooming you further to accept intervention, to lay there with your legs akimbo and do whatever you're told. Okay, so if you really want to understand about how birth works, what you can do to help it work best, go with somebody independent. Yeah, either have one-to-one tuition, or there are lots of online courses if you're looking for something cheaper, and there are good ones and there are not so good ones. Okay, I wouldn't go to anything that's run by an NHS midwife. I just wouldn't.
It's just been proven that, like fish don't see water. Most of them won't necessarily see that what they're actually sharing is how to work within their system, not giving individual physiologically sound, evidence-informed information.
Yeah, so just because I wouldn't go with that, if what you want to do is say yes to everything that the NHS is offering, then maybe that is the right antenatal class for you. Yeah, you gotta figure out what feels best and right for you, what information you want to know. Do you want to say yes to everything, or do you want to think about how your body actually works, how your anatomy and your physiology works, and how you can best support it, how you can say no to things, ways to do that, practical ways to do that, and maybe you pick a different option. So it's up to you. What I would do might not be what you would do, and that is okay. So they will also probably talk about the breastfeeding benefits of breastfeeding, and they will provide you with your maternity notes. And I know a lot of people feel judged by discussions about breastfeeding. I know it's a very emotive subject, so just to throw that out there. There are obviously a lot of benefits to breastfeeding. There are also reasons why people may not want to breastfeed, and that's okay. And so it can be helpful to go into appointments really with imagining yourself with some armour on, or a reflective cape, or an orb of protection or something, so that you understand that any judgment you feel coming from the person that you are sitting across from, it says more about them than it says about you. Yeah, you are making the right choices for you. It really doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. Who cares? You haven't got continuity of care, you'll probably never see them again.
For real.
And if you don't want to see a particular midwife, you have the right to say, I don't want to see that midwife again. Yeah, okay. So you don't have to do anything you do not want to do.
You really don't. You really don't. Even if that midwife reminds you of somebody at school that you had a fight with or was bullied by or whatever, it's not her fault, but it's equally not your fault. But please don't see her again, because it's going to affect your physiology.
Yeah. If you're going to an appointment excited about your pregnancy and you're coming out, God, that was tough, or I feel really miserable, or now I feel really anxious and scared, that's not serving you. Don't do it again. Learn from your mistakes.
Please.
Yeah. Just don't, it's not benefiting you more than it is causing harm. Yeah.
I know many mothers, they feel if they don't comply, if they're not a good girl, that they won't get care at the point that they need it. But I have to say to you all, that being a good girl and being compliant isn't working out for us in maternity services. It's very clear from the numbers of people that are suffering birth trauma or even post-traumatic stress, it is clear that that is a rubbish strategy. Yeah. So please don't do that. Please don't put up with poor kids so that, you know, they don't harm you, because people are getting harmed when they're compliant. So one of the things that's going to help you is by listening very carefully to the whole of our podcast, all the episodes, so you can get powerful and informed and acquaint yourself with that person that actually is an adult taking care of themselves, because that's what's going to be, that's what it's going to take to navigate life. Outsourcing to people that don't care about you is not the way to be safe.
Yeah, untether yourself from that thought that, you know, come and be untethered with us, is what we're saying. And if you are choosing to engage with NHS maternity services, please get yourself a doula. Please get yourself a doula, because they, honestly, a good doula is worth more than their weight in gold. And I'm not just saying that because I am one, but I've been in many, many situations where I've helped my clients get things that they wouldn't have got otherwise, that they would have just said yes to, that they would have been like rammed over, fisted, you know, without that, oh, can we just pause a second? Do you really want this to happen? You know, you have a choice. You know, because you can forget in the moment. You can be so used to saying yes to outside authority that it can feel difficult to say no. So get someone to help you to make a pause so that you can decide, do I want to say yes or no to this? Because you'll feel a lot better with that. It helps reduce the feeling of trauma, the feeling of being steamrolled over, you know, just creating that space is so important.
I know you want to move on, but I'll tell you, this is going to be a two-parter, because
that's okay, we can do two-part.
A lot of people, they say, oh, it's all right because my mum's going to be there. And I always say, okay, so what kind of birth did your mum have? Oh, well, lithotomy. They took a scissors to her perineum and dragged me out by forceps or whatever. I say, and is that the birth that you're wanting? Well, no, but, you know, it's my mum. I don't want to tell her, no, she can't come or whatever. But honestly, you having your mum there, you having your partner there like a deer in headlamps, who's, you know, not even learned what you've learned, how are they going to protect you? Or when they're doing the bait and switch with your mother and your partner, when you know, as I've heard very recently, you know, when either of them leaves the room, the midwife goes out after them and says, "Oh, you do know that woman's going to die, don't you? Oh, your partner's going to die unless she does what we've just told her. Could you have a word?" And they do that with mothers too. You know, there's still got 1% of you choosing doulas, and the other 99% of you fucking winging it. Why would you do that? There's something that's going to affect your whole health for the rest of your life.
And your relationship.
Remember it's so many relationships. I mean, case in point, my relationship. Once I saw that I was abandoned in labour and birth and, you know, ended up with a cesarean, the trust was gone. Yeah. I mean, obviously now I forgive my ex-husband because, you know, he was as clueless as I was. We both decided to spend our money somewhere else and get a doula. How could you go into a system not knowing what you don't know, but with no advocate either, and just hope for the best? What are you thinking? Oh, it's not going to be me. Why would you do that? Don't you read the press?
Yeah. And it's, you know, and though midwives are supposed to be there to be with you, they are supposed to be there to support you, as you heard from our episodes with Tess, it's very difficult for them to actually do that, and very few are willing to go against the institution that is paying their bills to be with women. It's very, very rare, and in all the years that I've been working as a doula, I've only seen it a few times. Okay, and even then, when you've got a great advocate, they still don't necessarily know everything. I was with a couple recently who had a wild pregnancy and a free birth, and we needed to go to the hospital. Baby was born beautifully at home, everything was fine, but she needed to go to the hospital for a complication that we could not manage at home. Okay, and the two midwives that I met there were absolute gems. okay, and advocated for her like there was no tomorrow. They were brilliant. They had people who were awful to her removed from the room. They were really fantastic. But they said, oh, we're really sorry, because you've free birthed your baby, we have to refer you to social services. Okay, so they were just like, oh, okay. And I said, no, hold on a second, that's not actually true. Here, let me show you this document. Okay, so I showed...
Was it the law?
It was, well, actually it was the NMC choices document, birth choices document. We won't talk about
which referred to the law. Yeah.
Which refers to the law, exactly. But we won't speak about the webinar that went along with that. There was a witch burning, doula burning mess. But the document itself is very helpful in that it says, you know, choosing to free birth is not a reason for safeguarding concern. So I was able to show the document to the midwife, who went, oh, I didn't know that. Thanks for showing that.
But you're just a doula, Shellie.
She photographed it, okay, and then advocated to her superior. Her superior's like, no, we're going to refer them. And she was like, well, no, actually, there's this NMC document that says that we don't, that we shouldn't.
So
and
the
said,
superior, the person that's supposed to be more experienced and knowledgeable, didn't know.
Yeah. But the doula...
Do you see why you guys, when I'm always perplexed when you choose to go into these places without an advocate. I just don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't understand. If there wasn't a press telling you every day about the forceps harm, the birth trauma, we've got, you know, whole campaigns about it, but you still go in and a wing and a prayer thinking it's not going to happen to you. Why would you do that? Okay, sorry. Yeah,
get yourself a doula. My services are available.
Please. Please. I'm not a doula. I'm a retired midwife. I'm telling you, get a fucking doula at least, right? To be honest, if you're thinking about having children, you need to be saving money to be at home with an independent midwife and a doula.
Yeah.
Okay? It's obvious. When this maternity unit fixes itself, and, you know, kind of waiting. When it fixes itself, I wouldn't hold my breath. Then you might be able to not have an independent midwife and a doula. But right now, if you want a healthy family, if you want to be healthy yourself, don't expect to cast your whole family on the free at point of use. Not free at point of use maternity services.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's a whole sentence. You might need to do some editing, honey, because
that's fine.
I'm pissed.
No, that's okay. Right, well, let's get back to the boring bit, and you might have a chance to calm down about what happens in your 12-week appointment. Or no, your 10-week appointment, your booking appointment. Sorry, okay, we're always all the way back there. It's definitely going to be a double episode. You may be asked questions, okay, all of which you can answer or not, because everything is your choice. You don't have to answer anything, but you may be asked about where you live, where you were born, your partner and family background, medical and mental health history, about previous pregnancies, height, weight, BMI, okay? All of which, no thank you.
You don't have to answer. I've got to give an example. One time I was a newly qualified midwife working in a booking clinic, and I saw a woman literally crashing out in the waiting room following her booking appointment, and I went and she was distraught. I asked her what happened. She said, I've just had a referral to social services because when I was at Glastonbury 5 years ago, I had a toke of somebody's spliff, and so I've been referred for counselling and social services. And that was a midwife that chose that course of action. So I'm just saying that midwife will say, I'm only following orders, much like they did in, the Nuremberg trials. I was only following orders. But you've got to remember...
Not minions, though.
And even though, you know, we are trained in our midwifery training to be congenial and approachable, etc., and trust us, you've got to remember that what we're calling currently midwife with woman isn't midwife. They're obstetric nurses, and they will throw you under the bus to get their salary. Yeah, I said it. Sisters, if you want to come at me, you can come for me because I've worked in your fucked up system and I've seen how you behave, all right?
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, remember that these things this is a risk profiling. So every question they ask, it is a reason to elevate your risk or lower your risk, depending on what it is. Okay. So, for example, if you're deemed to have a high BMI, okay, BMI was never meant to be a medical tool for determining health. Okay, if you have a higher BMI, I highly recommend you read Dr. Sarah Wickham's excellent book about plus size pregnancy, so you understand a bit more about actually what the real risks are or not for your situation. Okay, but there is a huge amount of fat phobia in medicine, huge, and it will start to limit choices. It shouldn't, but it does. Ooh, no, sorry, we can't have you in the birth pool because you're too heavy for us to lift out in case there's a problem. So, you know, you're then
there will
removed.
Be a problem because you've got a fat vagina.
What is that? What is the vagina thing?
You've got a fat vagina. So you're probably going to need us.
Oh my gosh, it makes me so cross. But you know, just be mindful that these things, and if somebody says to you, oh, I can't finish the form because I need to put something in the box, it's not your problem. Okay, it's not your problem, it's their problem. Make something up. Do whatever you want, but you don't have to answer these questions if you don't want to. Okay, so they ask you about smoking, alcohol, drugs, social support, domestic safety, about your consent to blood products. Okay, and all of that information is used to assign a care pathway, you know, consultant-led or midwife-led. But here's the key point again, everybody. You're entitled to decline questions. You're entitled to ask why information is being requested, so you can understand, okay, if I answer this question and it's going to put me down a particular path, do I want to go down that particular path? Is that going to help me? Is that going to serve me? And am I going to feel safer with that option? So it might be, yes, I feel like I'm high risk. I really would like to see a consultant. You can answer the questions so you can get your consultant appointment. Yeah, but if you don't understand why they're asking it, or that if you answer a particular way that it's going to affect your choices or the care that you're offered, even though it shouldn't, you know, and that you might have to then fight further down the line for things. It's just about considering, do I want to answer this or not? You know, and ultimately you get to choose your model of care. Okay, but you might need to speak to somebody more senior to organise that and facilitate it in the boundaries of the system. Okay, you're then also going to be offered blood tests. Okay, and the blood tests include FBC, which is a full blood count. So that tests your haemoglobin levels, your red blood cell indices and platelets. So primarily they're screening for iron deficiency anemia and other potential hematological abnormalities. So that just means blood abnormalities. That may affect pregnancy or birth. They will check for your blood group and do antibody screening. So they're looking for your rhesus status and red cell antibodies such as anti-D and anti-K. Okay, so this is another risk profiling for, do they then need to offer you anti-D prophylaxis later down the line? And again, Dr. Sarah Wickham has really excellent information about that if you are in that situation and want to understand your options and, you know, whether to accept or decline things or if it would feel important for you or not. Okay. They also search for other antibodies that could cause hemolytic diseases of the fetus and the newborn, as well as looking for infectious diseases like screening for HIV. And the reason they do that is because treatment can dramatically reduce vertical transmission of HIV. Okay, so that may be something that you're thinking, yeah, I really want to check for that. Okay, but before they take the blood test, you could say, I consent to these parts of the blood test. I don't consent to this part if you want. Yeah, you can have all the things or you can have part of the things. It's sort of up to you. Okay, they also look for syphilis, which helps prevent miscarriage, stillbirth and congenital syphilis, and also Hep B. So with Hep B, it's about preventing neonatal infection, and so they will offer immunisation at birth. Okay, and there's a strong evidence base for this, that early detection and treatment reduces vertical transmission. Okay, so there is a clear public health benefit to searching for blood disorders. So for looking for things like they screen for sickle cell and thalassemia as well. and that's universal in England. Standard part of the blood test to identify the risk of serious inherited blood disorders. And if they pick something up, they would also offer your partner screening as well to see which side of the family things are coming down from. And there is good evidence base for the early identification of this, because it helps with future reproductive decisions on things. Okay. They also test for rubella immunity. They'll test for rubella antibodies and identify non-immune women. And they will offer you a vaccination postnatally for that, not in pregnancy. Okay. And it doesn't change the pregnancy management, that one, but it does inform post-birth planning about what you want to do. Okay. You may also, from the questions that they've had, have risk-based testing. Okay, for vitamin D, for ferritin, for HbA1c, or early glucose testing. So they would do that if there might be a higher risk of diabetes.
So that'd be non-fasting.
So they just do it as a standard blood
Random.
test. And with that, because the reason why they do that is if you have out of control blood sugar early in pregnancy, when the fetus is forming, when you're getting organogenesis, so where the organs are forming, if your blood sugar is out of control at that time, it does increase the chance of congenital malformation and of miscarriage. Okay, so if you have a family history of diabetes, you have a potential history of things going on in your own body, that may be something worth thinking about to check to make sure that your blood sugars are under control. They also check for varicella immunity if you have no history of chickenpox, and thyroid function tests. I honestly can't speak today. Thyroid function tests if there are symptoms or history of potential thyroid issues. Okay, because the thyroid issues are very wide-ranging. They have big impacts on everything happening in your body, including your pregnancy. So if you are showing symptoms of that, it could be helpful. Okay, they will also offer blood pressure and urine testing. Okay, and the reason why they do this is hypertensive disorders, so high blood pressure disorders, affect around 10% of pregnancies. Okay. Now, there have been no randomised control trials comparing blood pressure screening versus no screening. Okay. There is sort of good, strong, indirect evidence that detection and treatment reduces serious harm. Okay, so if they are checking everybody and they find somebody with high blood pressure, that they can help to prevent future problems, like either by medicating or picking up to see if it isn't just high blood pressure but is preeclampsia. Okay.
But also it's worth considering that you could be having white coat syndrome. So it's really good, rather than just accepting a diagnosis of hypertension, just testing your own blood pressure at home using a very easy, simple device that you can buy online for less than 20 quid.
And it's really important not to go off one reading. Do not go off what you can't diagnose high blood pressure with one reading. It needs to be a series of things, and like Kemi said,
the history of antenatal care was because of undiagnosed hypertensive disorders and the effect on pregnancies, like poor placental perfusion, so placental insufficiency, so small baby or growth restricted baby, etc. There is a history of benefit for assessing whether hypertension is in the picture, which could then obviously towards the end of pregnancy or the second half of pregnancy become preeclampsia. We got talking about because Shellie thought I'd been hazed in my midwifery training with stories of how we're really lucky these days because we use test strips rather than back in the day before these urinalysis testing sticks, where midwives were obliged and doctors were obliged to swig the wee. Swig or swill. Not sure if we swallowed or if we spat.
Sure, like, naked.
Not sure if we swallowed or we spat it out. But obviously, I had to refine my knowledge of that. So I was told it was for glucose and protein. I always see, a lot of midwives have an eye for protein. It kind of shows up as being a bit cloudy in the wee. But the swigging was about the glucose. Just to reassure everyone, We only swilled the wee looking for glucose, so it would taste a bit sweet, and then we'd know if people were suffering from diabetic or glucose control disorders. There you go.
I still don't believe it. I still don't. I think it was taste. It was like, I'm dipping it, that thing. I've seen it where they dip a finger in, but then they lick the other finger. Like, dip your finger in, So you're fooled thinking that you lick the wee just to see if it's
feeling all grateful to only come into midwifery in the 21st century. Yeah.
But they've got sticks for that, and you can get the sticks for, yourself and have them at home and test your own thing.
You can buy them online, very inexpensive, usually under a tenner.
Yeah, and so the dip sticking for protein for diagnosing preeclampsia, there's very limited evidence to show that it's conclusive or helpful, honestly. Because it needs to be. It's like a leading on to other things. A lot of these routine tests that are offered, remember they're an offer, so you can say yes or no at each appointment, is to then funnel you down further things for further testing, for further information, if that makes sense. Then we've got, so you've done your initial bookings, then you are offered a dating scan, an initial dating scan and combined screening test. So remember, it's up to you whether you accept or decline that, and that is usually done between 11 to 14 weeks. It's sometimes called the first trimester screening. And what is it screening for? So if you accept the screening, it's testing for Down syndrome, trisomy 21, Edwards syndrome, trisomy 18, and Patau's syndrome, which is trisomy 13. And what it includes is an ultrasound measurement of nuchal translucency, which is like this fluid space at the back of the baby's neck, and also a blood test which measures free beta HCG and PAP-A, and also looks at your age. So these figures are combined somehow in some probably very complex formula that I don't know about to give a risk estimate. So it's not a you definitely have, it's not a diagnosis, it's a screening. It's a screening. It's like you have a 1 in X chance of having these things. So you have a 1 in 150 chance, or you have a 1 in 1,000 chance. And with regard to that testing, the detection rate, the correct detection rate for Down syndrome is around 85 to 90%. It's slightly higher for Edwards and Patau's, but the false positive rate is around 5%. So around 1 in 20 people flagged as having a high chance of having these things do not have them. So it means that some affected pregnancies are missed and some unaffected pregnancies are flagged. And what happens if it is a high chance? You get back the result, it's a high chance. Well, you usually get an offer of an NIPT, a non-invasive prenatal testing, which is still a screening, not a definitive diagnosis, but it has a higher accuracy, or diagnostic testing, which is CVS, chorionic villus sampling, or amniocentesis. Both of which are invasive and carry a small miscarriage risk. So those are not standard. Those are if you get a high reading on this thing, like a high chance of something, you then will be offered these other things. And of course, it's your choice whether you accept or decline these. So if you're thinking in your mind, it makes no difference to me if my baby has any of those congenital differences. I want to have them, and anyway, I don't need to know. And you don't want to have that slight risk of miscarriage with that testing, you don't have to have it. So what does the 12-week scan do well? Whether I'd count it as well or not, it gives a slightly more accurate dating than using the last menstrual period, if that feels important for you.
Considering pregnancy ends, naturally within like a 5-week period. So, and then you've got your outliers where the baby comes at 35 weeks perfectly spontaneously and healthy, or 45 weeks spontaneously and healthy. But then you've got the 5 weeks from 37 to 42 weeks when most babies pop out. So even if they're, obsessing over a date, it doesn't matter, because your baby might choose to grow for 270 days or 300 days.
Exactly. It's not going to accurately predict when your labour will start, so do you really need to know? Okay.
Yeah. Are you going to say any more about Pape?
Well, I have got other stuff, like later on if we had time to talk about Pape. I feel like Pape might need its own episode.
I'll just be swearing throughout the whole episode, please.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I think Pape is one of those sort of ridiculous things, really.
It is.
That it creates all of this concern and stress, and it just doesn't really mean anything.
Well, in the next episode, can we spend 10 minutes on Pape?
Yeah. But do you want to do it now? You can if you like.
Unfortunately, you know what we do. What do we do apart from sit here and shred maternity services?
Oh, you've got mothers waiting.
Speak to mothers, don't we?
It's that time already.
Already.
Well, we did manage to get out of the booking appointment at least. I mean, at least we managed.
Honestly, you guys think this is just a light decision. Let me just go along with the rituals of maternity services. It's a minefield. All of that is part of the grooming. And you don't realise it. You're all excited, you skip in, you do your booking appointment, you think, how harmful can it be? You don't realise you've loaded yourself onto a train that may end up with cascading interventions and surgery. So, yeah, that's my clear bias.
And when you say may, yeah, but it's not a bias though, is it? It's the truth. Because when you look at the NHS statistics, you are offering yourself up to the induction cascade of intervention train if you get on it. So,
if you get on it, and I'm not saying don't get this information, but there's ways around it. You've got private scanning places, you've got private doctors that offer the same blood screening as Shellie mentioned. I'm just saying, do you have to submit to all of them? Do you have to submit to them in establishment maternity care? Because they have a bias, which is keeping the lights on. And they'll do whatever they can to ensure that they get in sufficient income to keep the lights on. So, and do you want to be colluding with that? If it's going to mean you end up with surgery that affects the rest of your lives.
Yeah. And you don't. It's as simple as that. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. Boom. Okay, everybody, we will see you next time, and we will continue on with the offerings of pregnancy grooming, which you can accept or decline.
Exactly. I bet you didn't know what a minefield it was. Did you? Just go along and offer my arm. Oh, it's going to be nice to see the baby. You've got to think these things through. Question everything.
Yeah, question everything. Yeah, I feel bad for saying grooming, because obviously, like, sometimes some of these things may feel helpful, but can you get those things without the grooming part? Then it's much more helpful, because then you've got information to make the decisions that feel right for you, but you don't have somebody else's fear. So untether yourself from other people's fear. Okay, take what feels good for you, take what you feel is important, take what you feel you need in order to feel safe and relaxed and secure, and we will see you next time, and we will continue on our journey. Bye everybody.
Bye everyone.
You can sign up to the Birth Untethered mailing list from the link in the show notes, become an Untethered Rebel, support the show, and join the growing community that meet together online each month to share collective wisdom, support one another, and also to receive extra resources that supplement podcast episodes.
The information shared in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be construed as medical advice. The views and opinions expressed by guests are their own and may not reflect those of the hosts. This content does not replace professional medical guidance.